remind people that I am not an attorney. Okay. There are attorneys out there that helps people file for and, claim disabilities, but they also take a huge chunk out of whatever you can get back from the back pay. I'm a social worker by heart. Like I said, we've done this many, many times. By using this formula, I've really had a 90% success ratio. And the first man I just talked about, he was that number 10 out of 9 out of 10, or that we just couldn't get approved, even though it went all the way to a federal judge and was kicked back down to the lower courts. The second one that I came across was working in a psychiatric hospital. He was barely 18 years old and he was a huffer. And when we destroy our brains, the huffing really messes things up. But this kid was approved the first time for Social Security, primarily because they had the medical documentation to back things up. So we've only got an hour. What I'm going to do is try and roll through these kind of fast and give some tips for all those people who've signed up today. I'll be sending this out to your email under what we're seeing here, and also a Word. The Word document, you can literally take up and start typing in under the questions. The questions that the guide is based on is taken from a Social Security application for disability. So as I was typing them up for other people, I decided, well, let's just do instructions for it. And that's how the guide came up. So we have tips on the different sides. We talk about medical dates in the last 5 years, if you can get them. Sometimes I recommend people getting a notebook and try and list the times that you've been to the doctor, the medications that they have listed for you, anytime you've been to the emergency room or in a hospital. If you can come up with, if nothing else, the year dates, and just try and compile that in handwriting. Remember, documentation is your friend. The more medical documentation that you have, the better off you are. Now, how we found autism Pensacola is my son is Ben with severe autism. So at age 5, I got him approved for Social Security on the first time. But once again, we had documentation from the school. So if our parents who are on board listening to this, any of the IEPs that the school has done, any of your psychological evaluations that have been done, those are worth gold as far as applying and getting approved quicker. So those are listed in here. Using a computer to write a summary will improve your overall odds if you can do that. Because a lot of the questions that they go through with this form, they ask again. They ask over and over and over again, and they just ask them in different ways. One important thing about talking about when you're filling out the form, like I have to fill out the form for my son, Ben. Ben is now 21 years old, going on 4. So whenever I'm filling out the form for him, I have to talk about how Ben would answer the form. Even though as dad, we do a lot of different, or parents, we do a lot of things for our kids with autism. We have to think about what is their ability to do these things. And it's also important to remember that Social Security reviewers do not know you. They don't know your son. They don't know what's going on. And the guide kind of helps break that down. You really have to imagine you're writing for someone who's in high school, who's going to be reviewing all of these things. You have to really spell it out for them the best that you possibly can do. So it breaks down into, so if we can move back just a track. So part of the important things is try and get your documentation together in a notebook or electronically. Try and get those dates down. If you can use a spiral notebook to kind of list them and do the different things, it will go a long way in working with these things. If you can get copies of IEPs or any kind of medical testing that's been done, all of those are wonderful in helping you. They really go heavy on, has a person been admitted to the hospital or psych unit? So you're looking for any kind of medical history that you can compile in a notebook, kind of like an ammunition thing to get ready for it. And once again, if you can put it on computer, um, you're really better off because they ask questions a lot. So it starts out and it wants information about your illness, injuries, or conditions, and how do they limit your ability to work. With my son Ben, he has a mental age of 4, and he has a severe communication problem. So those are some of his conditions that limit his ability to work. Voc Rehab has been, assessed him a few times, but because of his low communication skills, um, they won't touch him for work. So, and it starts out, describe your disability, how it limits your ability to work. Um, you know, can Ben go to work? No. Um, and it goes down in a lot of different examples. How are people, how are you, how do you get along with your coworkers? Are you able to handle feedback? Are you able to communicate with them? And then we include tips. The more details that you can share about your abilities, the better off you are. Here they want to schedule, describe what you do from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. Details, details, details. If you can write this on a computer, like I said, once again, you can start cutting and pasting and come up with a great thing. It's important to realize that a lot of times people fail or get denied for their Social Security applications because they don't give it a lot of details. Okay, they talk about what they're able to do rather than what they're not able to do. And here it's really important to highlight what a worst day scenario is in the person that you're writing about. With Ben, Ben has a lot of anxiety. He doesn't like changing schedules, and well, he's a big guy right now. When he goes into an anxiety attack, it can get pretty serious. So once again, details, details, details. If they need help getting out of bed, if they need reminders, hey, you need to go brush your teeth, they need assistance in the shower. What is their kind of routine? What's the first thing that happens each day? Do you have trouble waking up, getting out of bed, have trouble sleeping? Are you able to get dressed? Are you able to pick out your own clothes? Do you eat breakfast, lunch, personal hygiene? Um, and once again, this is based on the person that I'm writing about. So if I'm writing about Ben, I'm going to write about what his ability to shower or bathe independently, what we have to do. Does he have to be monitored? Does he need help getting in and out of the tub? The more details you can add with that, the better off you are. Acti Afternoon activities. Do you become tired easily? Do you take medicine during the day? And what sort of side effects do those have on you? Preparing for
I have
supper,
a
are you able?
question for you, sir.
Go ahead.
So, what happens when you do list the actual worst day scenario
Uh-huh.
and you still get denied? I have I have filled out this paperwork numerous times. My son also suffers, severe autism,
Hmm.
and I've been going back and forth with 3 different states now trying to get benefits. And
Okay.
now we moved to Florida. I have yet to file here because it's so frustrating to be told you don't qualify. You don't qualify. So just
Gotcha.
any insight that you could share on that. I know it's for the overall good of my son
Hmm.
and his future
Right.
to have this opportunity and to have benefits for himself.
Hmm.
But at the same time, how much is too much and when is it time to get a lawyer involved?
Good questions. And sometimes that's where a lawyer would come in handy. Um, I'll be more than happy to spend time with you and go over some specific things. Um, I, I my opinion of Social Security reviewers aren't very high. I'm trying, since we're recording, so I'm trying to be nice. Uh, but you really just, you've got to go through and you've got to, like I said, try that you're explaining this to a ninth grader. Um, and, and then always use the right to appeal. I remember we were at a workshop and with a retired Social Security worker, and he told us, he says, the goal for Social Security is to deny you because they figure if they deny you, you'll give up after a while, and then you won't ask anymore, or you'll die. Um, it was really an eye-opening type of experience. Um, but using this form, I've had about 9 out of 10 go through the first time, because you're really just writing things over and over and over again. And because it's done on a computer, if you can cut and paste, because you're just going to tell them again. Uh, but I'll be more than happy to sit down with you and go through it, um, and see what we can do about getting it approved for you. Okay. There's no guarantees, but well, let me go through here. Um, so again, we're talking
Appreciate
about,
that.
are they able to care for other animals or other pets, um, independently? Ben has a rabbit in his room, but he just looks at it. Mom feeds the animal. Mom makes sure it has water. Mom cleans the cage. Um, so we're really looking at what is their ability to do things. Um, and that's what they're looking for here. What were you able to do before your illness or injuries, conditions that you can't do now? Ben was born with this condition. So some would apply to that. Um, so my special note here is for people who've become injured or affected in sudden illness. Um, this is one of those places where you can do copy and paste. Um, my son was born with this condition. He's always been unable to do things. And then we get into sleep. Um, what happens through the night? Are they able to stay up? How does the condition affect personal care? And here, it's really a good way to explain, for Ben, he likes macaroni and cheese, but he won't cook it. Um, Another part of this is sometimes people will ask, well, are you able to eat every day? And it's like, sure, but what are you eating? Well, I might have a sandwich. Uh, okay, well, what about shower? Do you shower? How often do you shower? Well, yeah, sure, I can go in and shower, but how often are you showering? Well, maybe once a month or maybe twice a month, due to depression or other things. So once again, it's really highlighting what's going on with the conditions and that your experience or the person's experience. We break it down into the whole 9 yards: bathing, hair care, showering, feeding themselves, using the toilet. Uh, what are they able to do? And you have to really think about, if I wasn't providing support or the direction, would they be able to do it on their own? And sometimes you really have to highlight that, this person, because of their anxiety or because of their understanding or because of, like Ben, he can understand what people are telling him for the most part, but he has trouble expressing himself. And then when we encourage him to use his words, sometimes because his speech is about the level of a 2-year-old, um, sometimes we have to call mom and go, what is he saying? Uh, but all of those things, we have to really paint a full picture of what's going on. Meals, once again, are they able to prepare their own meal? Um, Ben can come in and pour himself milk, or a milk juice, different things like that. Um, but as far as preparing a meal, more than likely not. But we even get it breakdown. Is it TV dinners? Is it sandwiches? How often are they preparing it? Um, does other conditions affect that? Like people who are suffering with depression. Um, Sometimes it's easier just not to, or they'll snack on something and not really prepare a meal. So all of those things, you really got to highlight with this. What's nice about this is typically whenever you file for Social Security, they'll set up a phone interview with you. And they'll go through a lot of these different questions. If we're able to prepare ahead of time, that way you can give them a good idea. And then they'll send you out this form with the questions like we're seeing here. They'll give you a little tiny bit of space to handwrite it. Um, that's why I like using the computer, because you can really get down with the details, and then you can copy and paste. Housework and yard work. Sometimes Ben will pick up his room, but without, the prompting or the assistance, he just doesn't get it. The guide has tips, answer D first, and then copy and paste your answers above. See if you can't do housework, list the reasons why, and then it kind of answers the other questions from there. Getting around. Um, can they go outside independent? Um, if left, if they went outside and they seen a car accident, would they know to go and call 911 to call the police? Would they wander off someplace? So the guide also includes the tips. Shopping. If I took Ben to Walmart, well, I'm sorry, the last time we took Ben to Walmart, he spent about $255 all on toys. Uh, we don't take Ben to Walmart very often. It can get really expensive. Um, but we're talking about giving more and more details in this. Money. Are they able to handle money? Or do they need a financial payee? Do they understand the concept of money? Ben's favorite thing in the world is dollar bills, because you can put them in a Coke machine to get a Coke at school. Um, but if you were to say, well, here, I'll give you a $10 bill for all those $1 bills, he doesn't understand the concept of, now I have a 10, doesn't take up as much room. So getting details with that, hobbies and interests, social activities. Once again, go down to the last question and then pop back up to the first. Um, has there been, has there been in social activity since the condition or injury? Without school and activities like autism, Pensacola, um, we wouldn't have any social activities because um, just the ability to get out and do different things. So I had to be real specific with that. And we talk about, once again, being really specific to those items so that it really draws a picture to our reviewers. And then talks about information about your current abilities. Um, and there's a tip. This is where you need to describe your worst days. Think about how the condition might, affect the following areas. I love this part. Check out the following areas you have trouble with your condition. It's literally a check mark. So lifting, squatting, they have all of these different lists on there. And then we go through here. It's just where you can actually answer them in writing. Once again, for some reason, Social Security thinks that you can just write all of this information in pen and ink. And there's just too much stuff that really needs to go into it. Stress. Um, Once again, Ben, when he's stressed, comes out in anxiety and temper tantrums and meltdowns, and it's not a fun thing to deal with. This part talks about the different age medications. Let's talk about that for a minute. It's really important to understand the medications if the person's taking them. You can go to WebMD and type in the type of medication it is to really get a good idea of what kind of side effects that it has. A lot of times, sometimes our people with mental health issues are prescribed Seroquel or Paxil or something like that, and they have side effects too. And these side effects are going to affect how they're able to deal with their day-to-day activities. I had one lady as a case manager who was given Seroquel, for example, but she didn't understand to take it at night. She was taking it during the day, and it was causing her to get dizzy, her sleepiness, and fall. A lot of different issues with that. So if the person's on medications, go to WebMD and take a look at the type of side effects those cause, and then we need to document those into the guide um, because all of those different things. We need to look at focusing on mental health with the guides as far as your physical health. And that's what we're working on in the remarks, the last part. This is where you can go in and just copy and paste if you want those sections that have already addressed all of this. Um, it doesn't matter if it's 20 or 30 pages, go ahead. Now, it's also typical routine that Social Security will send you to another doctor for an evaluation. In the past, I've made copies of all of this work used on this form and printed it out with me. And then when we go to see this new doctor or what have you, I'm kind of quiet, even though that's hard to do. But I make sure they have a copy of this because all the information that they're not able to gain from their evaluation, it's right here, and then they can look it up. So we've had a lot of success with that. Even though they didn't ask for it, well, by the way, I brought you a copy of this because Social Security will not send these answers to the doctor or the person evaluating. They sent Ben for an IQ test when he turned 18. We went to Crestview, which was a little ways away, and they were able, Ben is nonverbal with severe autism, but they were able to do a nonverbal IQ test, which really amazed me. I'd never seen it done. And I made sure that I kind of stay quiet. I assisted them because Ben wouldn't go back alone, so I had to go back with him. But I made sure that she had a copy of this summary um, with her notes, and they approved it, and no other questions were asked. So it was really come in handy. Yeah, add a footer to each of your pages for the application. Make sure they know, whether Social Security, what have you. Social Security is also wonderful of going, well, sending out notices, going, well, hey, you need to go to this certain doctor by, it's 3 days away. If you get denied, remember, you have the right for an appeal. And you have up to 60 days to appeal that decision. So make sure that if they deny you, turn around and go back and request for an appeal. That keeps your file open, and then you might want to consider an attorney, or by this time you've got documentation, you've got all of this wonderful stuff that most any attorney would love to have, and to go from there. Kind of went through that fast. Philip, do you have questions?
No, I mean, you're hitting everything. I mean, I'm taking good notes right now.
Okay,
So we'll just keep moving.
gotcha. Well, that's where we're at. We're at the end of it.
I have a question, please.
Okay, go ahead.
When can we start applying? Do we have to wait that the child is 18 years old?
I believe Social Security wants suggest about 6 months before.
6 months before. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and just a couple of notes on that. It always floored me because of Ben. He's been pretty severe autism since, well, age 2. But it always floored me whenever I first applied for Social Security that they wanted to put him on SSI, so support, instead of the disability type of Social Security. And I really couldn't understand why. But until mom or dad retires or becomes deceased, the at 18 they're considered an adult, and more than likely they'd be put on SSI, which comes with Florida Medicaid. And then another time, if mom or dad retires or passes away, then they can go back in and reapply for the disability type Social Security.
I have one more question. I did apply when I got divorced for help from Social Security, and they gave me money for a little while, and
Mhm.
then they took it all back to me. So now I'm reimbursing for everything they allowed us to have at the time. So I really was confused. They said my income had went up and I no longer qualified. Uh,
Yeah,
so they
sometimes they make changes and don't bother telling anybody.
Well, I guess I looked at my tax return or something. Yes, anyway, so, but after 18, no matter what income we have, if the child is declared disabled, normally is eligible for SSI or disability SSI, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, okay.
And you also have to keep in mind, and they, instead of viewing the child as your income, um, at 18 they look at
It's his own
their,
income.
correct, yes. So
Yes, that he
and
can.
also with the over 18 type thing, they're also expected to pay a share of the rent and electricity and utilities um, as part of their Social Security check.
Okay, thank you.
So,
So they're in a group home or something that can help. All
yeah,
right.
well, that's a little bit differently.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all. Are there any other questions?
Hey, Jim.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any organizations that assist families with the application process, like from start to finish? Is that something that you do?
It is, yes. Um, typically, it because I'm a full-time caregiver now, this is kind of my only income. But typically, we can go through the application in about an hour, hour and a half, and then it takes me another hour or so to write it up. Um, and we'll work with the families. Okay. Typically, it's about 25 an hour. Um, but if we have a family who's in need, we'll work with them. You can't get it until you give it away, right?
Right, absolutely.
We're
No,
not
we
gonna.
we do get phone calls quite often about that, and so I'll be sure to, give them your contact information for sure.
Yeah, and what we would do, we would seriously go through this same form, and sometimes it's helpful because you for someone else asking questions, because sometimes there's things that you think is part of your daily routine and that nobody would really care. But sometimes some of those things are important, like stress or the medication side effects or what their true abilities are. Um, the Social Security forms is to talk about highlighting their disabilities, the things that they really, really need help with that they can't do independently. Um, so that's what we do. But I'll work with, especially from families from autism Pensacola, we'll work with them with whatever we can do for them. We'll be sending
I
out.
have,
Sorry,
yes, sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
you had a question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot about building a trust or establishing a trust. Do you have any experience or information about that and how that can be related to or would have any impact on Social Security applications?
It might. Good question. Thank you for asking. Um, there are a few trusts out there. If you go to a lawyer, you're looking at a $3,000 price tag to establish a trust or different things like that. Florida has the Able Trust out, which you can open an account for a person for, I think it's a little as $50. In the past, we've had people get in trouble with Medicaid because an aunt or an uncle died and left the child some money. The person cannot have over access to over $2,000 and still qualify for Florida Medicaid. Um, and that includes like a death benefit or something like that. So that's where Able Trust comes in, where if you have an insurance policy or whatever, and somebody wants to leave the person some money, it can go directly into the Able Trust account and then be used for specific needs. What those are, I'm not super familiar with them, but there's lots of information online for them. There's other people like the Family Network Disabilities. They have a trust also, and it costs a little money to open it up, but then they use that money. They invest it somehow, and then as the person needs a new wheelchair or a new TV area or different things, then they're able to access the money, and it doesn't go against that $2,000 for Medicaid. Good
Okay,
question.
so you recommend it's a good idea to start a trust?
I would certainly look into it. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And you can Google it. Like I said, under ABLE, ABLE, ABLE Trust in Florida. That's the best one I know of because, you can start it for like $50 and it's their money. Okay. Last chance. Anybody on the chat box? All right. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. If we can help you in any way, please let us know. We've got some other guides and different things for caregivers that helps with stress. And we developed by my side today, once again, for caregivers. And not only caregivers, but the professional side of caregiving too, the people that are working with our people as they become adults in group homes, other things. So we have supports for them. We have supports for families. And once again, I'm a family. I get it. And that's what we're here to do. Please let us know what we can do to help you. If you have questions, just email me at thegmail.com. I'll be sending this guide out in Microsoft Word and also probably the PowerPoint to everybody that registered today. All right. Shannon and Autism Pensacola, thank you so much. I really appreciate what you all do. And it's been an honor to present to your people.
Yes, thank you so much, Jim. And there'll be a link for this recording to share with others who couldn't miss it or who missed it today.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah, I should have that out by tomorrow.
perfect.
Because it takes about an hour, and then I got to edit it a little bit, but front and back.
Okay, great.
And then we'll send you the link out.
Well,
Thank you all
thank you so much for taking your time out today, Jim, to provide tips on the application process for Social Security for our families.
Yeah. And remember, you can use the same information to apply for APD, for the waiver, for other things along those lines. So it takes some work and some typing to get it all done. But once you get there, then it's a great platform to use to apply for any type of benefits.
Wonderful.
Thank you all. You take care.